I'm Nick Seco from Home Right Windows and Doors, and we're located in Waynesboro, Pennsylvania. So we do vinyl replacement windows, we do steel and fiberglass entry doors, we do aluminum storm doors, and we do sliding patio doors, all made by Provia. The windows are a vinyl replacement window, and it could be anything from double hungs to casements to bay and bow windows and everything in between. So when somebody calls in the office and needs an estimate, they get Roxanne on the phone typically, and she would schedule an appointment for me to come out and take some measurements, provide some literature, go through what options we have, and then I would follow up within about 24 to 48 hours with an estimate with all the details of the products as well as the installed price. I find that we're typically much more affordable than the companies that you see advertising on TV or in a lot of other places. If they're spending a lot of advertising dollars, obviously they're passing those costs on to their consumers. You could go to our website at homerightwaynesboro.com, or you could call us at 717-749-4874.
Local and live, covering Franklin and Washington counties, it's Let's Talk TriState with Tiny and Katie.
Welcome back to Let's Talk TriState, all powered by Home Right Windows and Doors in Waynesboro, the right choice, winner in the 2024 Best of the TriState Awards. Alice Elia is a friendly face here and a familiar face with Let's Talk TriState. Last time we spoke with her, she was here representing the Franklin County Library System. Today, not quite. Still we're in Franklin County, but now we are talking about Franklin Votes. Alice, first of all, welcome back.
Thank you.
And you're a volunteer with Franklin Votes, so you made the rounds as far as doing wonderful things in our community, right?
Right.
So how did you get involved with Franklin Votes? Because they've been guests of ours before as well.
Right. So there's a group of us. There are about 6 of us who volunteer with Franklin Votes. Mm-hmm. You met with Amy and Ken before. We are kind of just a group of people who were talking about how to get people more engaged and more aware of what's going on civically and as far as elections go. And when we were talking about it, we just kind of thought maybe we could do something to try to get information to people, help the electorate be a little more informed. We kept hearing from people in the community who would say things like, well, I don't even know who's on my ballot, or I don't know when election day is, and how do I know what people stand for? So we thought, okay, this is something maybe we can make a difference with. So we created a website, which is the primary way people seem to get information nowadays. Yeah. So we've got franklinvotes.org. We have some really gifted people as far as website design and graphic design talent.
It's a very informative website.
It is.
I love it, but it's not so informative that it's cumbersome.
Exactly.
And what am I seeing? It's very I don't want to say, very layman's terms. It's very simple, as the voting process should be.
Right.
It should be simple to be able to find out. It used to be, prior to a website like Franklin Votes, which I'm very thankful for because I've used it as well, it used to be that this information was so, I dare say, unintentionally cryptic or difficult to find. Who's going to be on the ballot? I see these yard signs. That's typically, well, I like their color yard sign, so I'm going to vote that way. Well, talk about an uninformed way to vote. I mean, it's your vote. Pull the lever however you want based on whatever criteria you want. But if you actually would like to know what people stand for, it's nice to have a one-stop shop here.
Exactly. And I think maybe, with the unfortunate decline of local newspapers, that information became a little more difficult to get. So
I think you are finding that, or at least I'm seeing a result of your work, because it used to be in local office where it was always, and I'm not knocking anybody or anyone who served their country and their community. I'm all for that. But it used to be almost one of those, you always see this person's running unopposed. I think it's because it probably seemed like this insurmountable task to be able to run for office.
Right.
You might otherwise think, I think I could be on the school board, or I'd like to be on the board of supervisors or the town council or whatever the case may be. It's not that hard to get on the ballot. Really, I think to me, the most difficult thing is to keep track of the dates.
Yes.
That really is it. And that's kind of why we're here today, because you have a new initiative. Tell us about this.
Yes. So one thing, we recognize the same issue, right, where you've got people running unopposed, or you've got offices where actually nobody's running.
Right.
So you go in and on either ticket, there's not even a name there, right? So you write in your friend, and your friend might get elected because they got 5 votes.
Right.
So this go around, we thought, okay, let's try to make it a little more accessible for people to run for office. So, we've got a platform to try to get people who are voting informed, but also it's important to let people know that maybe it's not as daunting as it seems to run for office. Yeah. So we're working with a couple of people. We're putting on a webinar. So that's going to be tomorrow night, and it's at 6 o'clock. Okay. And it's all through Zoom, so it's easy. With the weather being what it might be, everybody can participate. Sure. Everybody can be there. We've got 4 people who are going to be kind of doing the presentation. And so we've got Jean Byers, who still works part-time for the county, but she's retired. She was the head of elections, so she is great as far as information on how the process works. We've got Peter Wolfhurst, who's a retired educator with the Co-op Extension, and he used to run a webinar series on just how local government works. Right. So it's kind of an overview of what that looks like in Pennsylvania, which is also a little confusing to people. Oh, yeah. And then we've got 2 sitting elected officials. So we've got Lance Walker, who currently serves on the Chambersburg School District, and we've got Chadwick Hare, who is currently on the Chambersburg Borough Council. So Franklin Votes is a nonpartisan group. This is a nonpartisan webinar. We are trying to get anybody who is at all interested in running for office the information they need to help them make a decision on whether or not that's the right decision for them. And I think, people have a lot of questions, like how much time does this take if I decide to do this? What does a week look like? What do the meetings look like? And then as far as dates go, when do I start circulating a petition? So petitions can start circulating next week, which is why we're timing this right now. Yeah. And you've got a month. And really, to run for borough council, you need 10 signatures from people who are in the party that you're in. You can go talk to your friends and neighbors and get on the ballot. Yeah. And you can also back out. So if you decide next week, okay, maybe I'll be on the ballot, you can go get your 10 signatures, you can turn them in. You still have some time if you're like, wait, maybe this isn't right for me. Yeah. But you've got time to ask questions. This webinar is an opportunity to do that. So you can ask questions of the people who know how the process works, and then you can ask questions of people who are currently sitting in office and doing the work. So
here's a question, since I have you here. I just said about a little bit ago about, well, maybe most people voted because they saw a yard sign. So that's the only name that they saw. They didn't even know what party they were on until they got to the polling place and saw that person's a Democrat or that person's a Republican. When it comes to the yard signs, which we can't argue, they have their place in politics. Will there be, or are there, will you be put in touch with some services that may help you with funding for that type thing?
Yes, you can. So I think that's when it starts to get a little partisan, right?
Right.
So I know that the local parties have some money for things like that. So say you want to run for office and you decide, however you're registered, that maybe you want some financial support for that. You can either get that financial support from individuals, you can put some of your own money into it, you can go to the party and see if they have any money to help you with that. And then there are some financial forms you have to fill out based on how much money you raise. But Jean Byers will be able to answer those questions too, which is really helpful. So,
and the reason I ask that is because I think that's one of the questions that people have is like, look, I don't mind serving on XYZ committee, board, whatever council, but I know what I may, I don't have the money to drop, whatever thousands of dollars or multiple of that it is to, and obviously the higher the office you get, the more that costs. Right. Not that it should or shouldn't, it just is what it is. Right. And I can't do that. I'm trying to make ends meet. I'm willing to serve my community, but not at the expense of my Monday through Friday life.
Right. Yeah. And so, yard signs are an easy way to do it, right? Because they get your name out there. And it depends, like you mentioned, what office you're running for. Yeah. So, for example, if you're running for something like township supervisor or borough council, a a big part of that is getting people to vote for you. And you can, if it's borough council, it's your neighborhood.
Yeah,
so like
exactly.
you can go around and knock on doors. The county will also provide for you a list of voters in the area where you are running.
Sure.
So say you're running for, so I also served in office, so I'll speak to my own experience, but you can ask the county for a list of voters, for example, in the first ward of Chambersburg, and they will provide that list for you, so you know whose doors to knock on, and you know who your potential voters are, and you know what your ward looks like. And then you'll have an idea of who you need to talk to try to get in office. And it gives you an opportunity, I think, to meet the people who you are hoping to represent and to hear from them what they're concerned about. And then they get an opportunity to decide who they want to vote for, right? If you and I are both running for office and they only meet you, they're probably going to vote for you.
Exactly.
If they meet both of us, then they can ask us both the same questions and make an informed decision there.
Well, because reality, like you said, you're an unknown quantity. If you do not, if the only thing you do is put yourself out there in name on ballot and nowhere else, early bird gets the worm.
Exactly, exactly. And to your point about partisanship on signs, you can't always. A lot of signs don't have the party on them. When you go to the primary, you'll know, right? Because you're going to get your ballot. But for offices like school board, people can cross-file as well. So you may not even know ever. I mean, and for an office like school board, you shouldn't, right? It should be a nonpartisan office. But if you want to know those questions, it's important to dig a little deper, right? So you can. Well,
I'm not trying to get political, but you mentioned Pennsylvania earlier. The only thing I would say is that, for school boards around, and I do think that this is something that I really wish the state of Pennsylvania would look at, is, to your point, I agree. On its face, when you say voting for a local school board should not be partisan, I agree, because it should be all about the children. However, the great state of Pennsylvania, the Commonwealth that it is, and I love Pennsylvania, has decided to grant the ability for local school boards to set and collect local taxes and decide about the distribution, which I think is a big mistake, in my opinion, but here we are, So to your point, local school boards have become partisan positions simply because, why? Money.
Right.
It's what it amounts to. It's money. Money changes everything.
Yep.
It's sad.
Yeah. So to that, and I think school board regions are a little larger than, say, wards in borough, like council elections. But I still feel like you should be able to meet the person who you want to represent you. And so in that sense, I feel like two people running for office should do their due diligence to meet the people who they're asking for votes from, and people who are voting for them, especially in a hyper-local election, should try to meet the person who's trying to represent them. And they shouldn't be met with any resistance there, right? Like, if you're running for office and you want me to vote for you, you should want to meet me.
Right, exactly.
Because there's a reason you're doing this, and there's a reason you want me to vote for you.
I think I've often thought to myself, when it comes to the relationship between candidate and constituent, it is the constituent should have every right to know the party of the candidate, but the candidate shouldn't care about the party of the constituent.
Right.
It should just be, here's where I stand. You ask a question, here's the answer. You walk away. However you feel, by all means.
Exactly.
Go vote that way. And I love an educated voter.
Yes.
I don't care how that vote turns out.
Right.
I don't care who you vote for. Don't care about the letter next to your name. What I care about is educate yourself to your candidates, I should say, and then make your decision. If you do that, all the respect in the world.
Exactly. And in my own experience, hyper-local politics often transcend party.
Yes, agreed.
So I think, in reality, regardless of what letter is after your name, if it's my job to get the street light fixed on your street, or the pothole filled, or your trash picked up, and I'm sitting there in a place to make that decision, it doesn't matter who you are or who I am. We all want our communities to be better, right?
Do you think that we have it? I know what you're going to say, because I think you'd agree with me. But I'm going to ask the question. Do you think we as a country have it backward when it comes to the national politics versus the local politics? Because we have this idea, this perception that it's the national politics that directly affect us. When in reality, if you want to look at what directly affects you, look no further than right outside your front door.
Yes.
That's what actually affects you.
Yes.
And could affect you. I understand that I'm not knocking or saying that the national politics are not important. Certainly they are.
Right.
If they weren't important, they wouldn't get as much attention as they do. But the point is that that's the national, that's what you see, because there's not enough media in the world to drill down to every single local race.
Right.
So you're not going to get that type of coverage that you would on the national level. But like you just said, you put it perfectly. A stoplight. That stoplight's down. The stop sign at the end of my road. I don't want my child to be hit. There's nothing more that affects you than your child's safety.
Right.
You're not going to, when you vote for president, it's not because you think he's going to fix a stop sign at the end of your street to protect your kid, right? That's your local elections.
Right. Exactly. And you're right. I do agree. But yeah, I mean, to your point, I mean, national elections are important, but we're also never going to meet that person.
Exactly.
I mean, we might, but rarely, right?
Yeah.
And those decisions being made are so vast that they don't drill down to your everyday life. And
they're very broad.
Right. So your school board member is going to make decisions about what the school looks like that your child attends. And if not your child, then your neighbor's child. And the kind of education that child gets is going to affect you.
You better believe it.
So because one day that kid you hope is going to be your doctor or your librarian.
Some productive member of our area.
Right.
You're hoping.
So we want all the children to be successful, right? Whether it's my kid in school today or not.
Right.
Same as your council members or your township supervisors.
Sure.
They're deciding what your neighborhood looks like. And so they're making zoning decisions and they're making decisions about how many parks are in your neighborhood.
What about property tax?
Exactly.
Same thing. You know, that's not happening on the national level.
Right.
Your property taxes, that's been a big topic in Franklin County here recently, is property tax. Is it, we know it's never going to go down.
Right.
I've always said once they get it, they're going to keep getting it.
Right.
So it's just a matter of, are they going to get more?
Right.
Educate yourself. What does this candidate want to do?
Right.
Everyone likes to complain that what XYZ politician did, all the way from the national down to the local, right? Everyone loves to complain. But did you educate yourself?
Right.
Now, if you did, by all means.
Right.
But if you didn't, what are you complaining about? Why are you complaining? You could have pulled the lever, and I hate when someone says, "Yeah, but my vote doesn't matter." Oh,
right. Every vote matters, and I think, especially in local politics.
Yes.
I mean, we've all heard the stories, and we know they're true. They're not made up. There are people who win elections by one vote.
Yeah.
And I have sat on council with people who won by 6 votes, and it doesn't matter. Those six votes mean that this person gets to make decisions about your future instead of this person.
Yep.
And I think for me, especially with local politics, and I appreciate that we can find this out, right? Do my values align better with your values or your values?
Sure.
And I get to make that choice about who I'm going to vote for based on questions that I should be able to have answered by the person who's running. And so as the office gets larger, it gets harder to do that. I mean, even in Franklin County, which is not a huge county, but I mean, there are 3 people who run for office or who sit in that seat. More people run, but who maybe can't meet every single person, right? But for your town council or your township supervisor or your school board representatives, you should be able to meet that person and pointedly ask them the questions that you have, and they should be able to answer them.
Well, I think, too, we also, and I love these types of conversations, but we also look at the local representatives, and we tend to ascribe to them that which we're seeing on the national level. This X, Y, and Z topic that is overtaking, they always, every time there's a presidential election, it's always the top 3 issues for voters. Well, those top 3 issues aren't necessarily something that the local politician or council member or whatever, and I hesitate to call them politicians, but that's what everyone knows. But anyway, that's not something that they're going to be affecting.
Exactly.
But yet for whatever reason, we feel, because it's what we see, we have to ask, well, how do you feel about this?
Right.
That's not likely to ever come up.
Exactly.
In anything that they're going to do, and yet we're making those decisions based on the answer to that question.
Right. Right.
Because if they have that as a response, well, that's not something that I would even deal with. Then it's like, oh, well, I'm not voting for them because that's might as well be a no.
Right.
No, that's not the case.
That will never be an issue that gets to have a vote on.
Yeah, exactly. You never have to worry about that. Just stop. Right. Let that be to that. And, like the Bible says, render to Caesar what's Caesar's, and then this worry right here, right?
Yes.
It's amazing.
Exactly.
I feel like we should be, we could go on forever, Alice, really. Yes. We really could. And just coming off of an election, I think we all have that fatigue about us. But take us again through what's going on. This is happening tomorrow, correct?
It is happening tomorrow. And to the voter fatigue, I mean, I think we have people out in our communities, too, who want to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that everyone can do.
Yeah.
I think it is a way to make a difference in your community, and it is a way to feel like you are doing something.
Sure.
In times when sometimes maybe we don't feel like we have much power, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so it is a way to give back. It is a way to help shape what your community looks like 10 or 15 years from now. Mm-hmm. And it's doable. And so no matter who you are or whether you think people will vote for you, trust me, you have no idea. All it takes is somebody who wants to and is willing to go meet people.
Thank you for saying that. I wanted to bring that up earlier. That's very important. I think some people feel that not a matter of maybe I'm not quote unquote intelligent enough to be a politician or be in public office, but more that I don't fit into that mold. I don't look like that. I don't wear suits and ties and all that. I think a lot of people forget that the people that we hold in the highest regard, i.e. founding fathers, they were farmers. Okay? They showed up covered in dirt because they were just out plowing rows, sowing seed, putting up hay, all these things, right? That they were, cleaning out, mucking stalls. It's common everyday people. And you have the ability to serve your community. You have the right to serve your community. And in some cases, you have the responsibility to serve your community. So don't think you can't do it.
Exactly.
And it's not for you. It is especially for you.
Right. And I feel especially that our elected officials should represent all of us.
Sure.
So I love it when we've got an elected body that has lawyers and retired business people and stay-at-home moms. I think it's important when you've got people making decisions about your community that you've got young parents sitting up there making decisions too, because I may be, a retired 70-year-old woman sitting on council, but I'm thinking about the community differently than someone who's got a 4-year-old kid at home. And so we all need to have our voices heard.
That's right, yes.
And so I hope that this webinar tomorrow night, which nobody's going to make you sign up to run for office at the end of it, it's information gathering. And so either you take it for yourself or you take it and you give it to your friends. But it gives you an opportunity to get a little bit of an idea of what it might look like and how to do it. And I can tell you it's easy to run. Getting people to vote for you is probably going to take more time than sitting in office for most of these positions.
A lot of times it's usually a once a week, maybe a twice a month meeting.
Exactly. And in many cases, there's a very educated and knowledgeable staff that will help you, and they will answer the questions you have about the process. And I think that's a question a lot of people have. Like, if I get there, what's the procedure? What's the process? How do I get the information to make the decisions? I can tell you, at least on Chambersburg Borough Council, you will have everything you need. And any questions you have will be answered.
Really just need your vote.
Exactly.
That's what it amounts to. Here's the issue. How do you feel? How do you vote?
Exactly.
That's
and then
what it is.
all your job is to do what you said you were going to do when you ran for office, which is to be honest and thoughtful and make a decision that is in line with your values.
That's right.
And so
represent the people who sent you there.
Exactly. It is an amazing way to give back, and it definitely helps you know your community in a way that you don't before.
Right.
And especially for people who have concerns or complaints, it is a way to find out how it works.
Yeah.
And so sometimes complaints come from a place of not knowing.
Right.
And so it gives you an opportunity not to only have your voice heard, but to also learn a little bit more about how it works. And it's valuable, and it gives back, and it's good.
Well, Alice, thank you so much for joining us today. Now, if there's anyone who may be seeing this or hearing this after the fact of the live webinar, is this going to live on your website as a link?
Yes, I do think we plan to record it. I will also say, reach out through the website. Mm-hmm. If you have any questions about how to run, we will get you as much information as we can.
Okay.
Go to franklinvotes.org. If you want to sign up, so to get the link, it's franklinvotes.org/events.
Okay.
That'll get you the link for tomorrow night. But you can always go to that website if you miss it, or if you have further questions. Mm-hmm. The group of people is really knowledgeable. We're really helpful. If we don't have the answer, we'll get you the answer. Okay. And we'll do whatever we can to help people get on the ballot and help people who are looking at the ballot know better who may fit with their values.
Sounds great. FranklinVotes.org is the website. Alice, thank you so much for joining us today. You're a shining star of the community and always welcome here on Let's Talk Tri-State and FranklinVotes.org. I encourage you, go to that website, check out the webinar. I'm going to be viewing that webinar as well. And just a reminder, as you are watching this and hearing this, it is we're airing this on Tuesday. What is today? The 11th? I can't remember. It's the 11th. I lose track of my days.
Me too.
So this is happening on the 12th. But if you are viewing this or hearing this after the 12th, because we do re-air some of our content on our YouTube page, or you may see on our YouTube page that this is a couple weeks after. As Alice said, it probably is going to be recorded and will live on the website. But you can also reach out, franklinvotes.org. So get out there and vote. If you want to run for office, this is the way you do it. This will get your questions answered for you. So let's talk Tri-State, all powered by Legends Bar in Chambersburg. Satisfy your sports fix at Legends Bar with game day specials and cold brews Hollywell Avenue in Chambersburg.
If you'd like to be featured on an upcoming episode of Let's Talk Tri-State, call 717-597-9200 or email letstalk@921thegoat.com.